Do you want to know how to build a world-class remote team? Well, you're in the right place because today we're going to take a look at a section from the book, How to Make a Few Billion Dollars by Brad Jacobs. Hang around to the end of the video because I'm going to give you a 10-second test that you can do on any employee in your team or your business and figure out if they're the right person that you need. I'm Andy Allaway, CEO at Empire Flippers, and this is the Leadership Show where we try and find tidbits and learnings from some of the best books to do with leadership and management and see how we can apply those to make ourselves the best remote leaders we can be. Okay, so how to make a few $1 billion. Pretty cheesy, clickbaity title. Who is this guy, Brad Jacobs, and where does he get the ego to name a book like that? Well, he's the real deal. Founded 7 companies at the time of writing, all billion-dollar or multi-billion-dollar corporations, including XPO, one of the largest logistics companies on earth. So he's the real deal. This is an awesome book, and I think there's some stuff that we can take out of it to really help ourselves build great teams in our businesses too. So how to build an outrageously talented team. One of the first things that Brad talks about in the section on that in this book is that there are 4 key traits that he looks for when hiring people into, particularly into his leadership team, but into his businesses, full stop. So first one, intelligence. He comes with intelligence right out the gate as one of the main things he looks for in people. And he makes the point that he wants people in his businesses to have the raw horsepower to solve problems. And he goes on to say that emotional intelligence and EQ is something that got very trendy, and you often hear people say that that's the main thing they hire for. And for sure, it is an important quality, but Brad makes the point, and in fact references a study that says that all of the most successful businesses predominantly hire for IQ over EQ. They hire for smart people who can fix their problems. And I think that makes a ton of sense. He does add 2 things that he qualifies that with, is that he wants smart people who are able to take in differing viewpoints and able to change their mind. So he doesn't want smart people who are really rigid thinkers and are so smart that they've convinced themselves that their way is the only way. He does want flexible people, but one of the things he prioritizes over anything else is pure smarts. The second attribute that Brad looks for when hiring is hunger. He has this great quote in the book, which is hire ambitious people who want to accomplish big things and make a lot of money. And I kind of like the various points through this passage. He is very unashamed about the fact that he wants to and has made a lot of money, and he wants to hire people that want to make a lot of money as well. It's a really interesting point. You'll often hear people in interviews say, it's not about the money, or I'm not interested in the money. And of course, the reason they do that is to not seem greedy and to give the impression that they have bigger reasons for why they want the job. That can very often be true. But when somebody says they're not interested in money at all, it's always like a little bit of a warning bell for me, because ultimately businesses are for-profit organizations. People typically go to work to make money, to improve their life and their families' lives. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's really interesting that Brad kind of teases that out in his hunger point, that he likes people who want to work hard and unashamedly want to get the rewards of that working hard as well. The third character trait that Brad hires for is integrity. People who do what they say they will. Obviously, honesty and stuff, that all rolls up into this as well. But he makes the point that an organization where everybody just does the things they say they will do, it's a huge advantage, obviously. And the flip side of that as well is that people who are dishonest are a drain on an organization. People who just want to get on with solving problems have to worry about if somebody who is maybe dishonest or they feel could be dishonest is doing things untoward or just not going to do their share. He actually goes as far as to say that dishonest people or low integrity people are an existential threat to the entire company. The fourth character trait that Brad looks for when hiring is collegiality. You can have all of the smarts, all of the hunger, be a high integrity person, but at the end of the day, business is people working with other people, working together to get things done. And so if you are not able to do that, then it's very unlikely you're going to be a high performance person. And he has this great quote in the book, which is, no one wants to work with a jerk, even a very talented jerk. And we probably all can think of people we've worked with in our career who were undoubtedly talented, but nobody wanted to work with them. And I think there really is a hard cap on how far those people can go. Quite often you can see them do well in individual contributor roles, but particularly if you're hiring for leadership, senior management roles, collegiality, the ability to get on with others and get others to take action with you is incredibly important. So those are the 4 character traits. After that, Brad has a really great section in the book about A, B, and C players. And the subject of A players or B players, this always really interests me because almost every company says some variation of, we only hire A players, right? And most of the people on earth are B or C players. By definition, A players are kind of the minority. They're the special ones. And so the math never really checks out on that. And I think Brad has a real good take on this, which is basically your job as a leader in a business is to make your business a C player free zone. Yes, you want to hire some A players. You're going to have probably some, if not majority, B players in your organization because that's where most people sit. And of course, then the challenge is like, how do you get the best out of those people? How do you create an environment where maybe they can become A players? But C players are really the ones where you're going to put a lot of time and management effort into them. You're unlikely to move the needle in terms of performance too much. And they kind of can be a drain on the organization and pull everybody else down. And one thing which I think all leaders have to ask themselves, even though it's kind of a thorny topic, is when was the last time you dismissed someone for underperformance from your business? And I think for a lot of leaders, probably it was quite a while ago. And unless your company is absolutely crushing it on every metric, by definition, you have some underperformance in the business. Now, you might have people that are on the edge of underperformance. And of course, there's a place for improvement plans and trying to give people the opportunity to come up to where you need them to be. But there is always a point in business and in management where somebody is just not up to the bar that they need to be. And you have to kind of let them go. And you owe it to the A players and the B players in your organization to do that. And I really like how Brad frames it, which is you need to act decisively but compassionately. You know, it is part of your job to manage underperformers out of the business. You can do it in a compassionate way. You can pay some severance that makes their life easier. But to get the organization to where you need it to be, you have to act decisively. And you can't shy away from your responsibility to the business and to your other employees. And then the last section in the hiring chapter is about compensation and incentives. And again, going back to the hunger piece, money is an important factor when it comes to getting the best out of employees. And Brad doesn't shy away from that. He goes out of his way to create incentives where if the business earns a lot of money, individuals can too. And I think that's really useful for most of us who are running businesses much smaller than Brad's, huge multi-billion-dollar public companies. We can't always afford to just pay the highest base salaries in the world compared to, maybe other companies in other industries. But most of the time we can come up with incentives where if the business performs really well, we can give individuals the opportunity to earn really well too. And he actually explicitly says that a lot of his companies, they pay industry average base salaries, but he's really, really on the money with figuring out where are those levers that if this person does really well, and we see that in the business results, then they have the opportunity to get compensated. So the 10-second test that you can use to see if you have the right people in your business, your team, your company. And this is probably the takeaway from the book that I have used the most myself and with members of my management team is you imagine that anybody in your business, you take one person, you imagine they come into your office, or if you're managing them remotely, then they come onto a Zoom call and they tell you that they're quitting, right? They've accepted a new job elsewhere. They can't be talked out of it. They're on their way. What is your immediate gut reaction when you hear that news? Is it A, that's lucky, I was thinking about getting rid of that person anyway, saves me a job, saves me having to pay any severance? Well, then that person was probably a C player and you've been helped out by the fact that they're leaving. If your reaction is, damn, it's a bit of a pain, it'll be a bit of a tricky transition period, but we'll figure it out and things will probably be okay, then most likely that person was a B player and you can decide whether it makes sense to try and keep them in the company or if you're happy with them leaving. And if your first reaction when you hear that news is like, damn, how have I allowed this to happen? this is going to create a hole in the business which we can't plug, or, if you really feel like it sucks, you hate that you're losing that person, then that person's probably an A player, and it sounds like they're very important to the business. So you should move heaven and earth to try and keep them, and you should figure out how you don't get into this place with one of your A players again. Brad makes the point that letting A players leave your business is a cardinal sin. So if you follow those steps, you'll be well on your way to creating a world-class remote team. And if you want to know what to do with that world-class team once you've got them on board, check out this video where I'll talk you through how to achieve more in 12 weeks than most business leaders manage to do in a year.